Welcome to Newsbeast. I'm Michael Moynihan. John Avalon is still missing, so I am hosting this Thanksgiving Day edition with Rula Jabral, a Daily Beast contributor, writer, Renaissance woman, everything. You have a new piece up now called The Third Intifada. It's a bit of a terrifying title. Give us an idea of what you're on about in this piece.
I wrote this piece 24 hours ago, predicting that there would be a third intifada. It's not that I'm a genius or anything. It's simply I read facts on the grounds. Palestinian frustration was building up. Hamas try, as always, to exploit this politically. That's why the rockets increased towards Israel. And that's why when Israel answered back, we saw today, this morning, a terrorist attacks in Tel Aviv, a bus explosion. It's a cycle of violence that we see every 3-4 years.
What do you think is specific about this moment? I mean, you see back, if you go back five years to the end of the second Intifada, there's a lot of predictions of a third Intifada coming. What is unique about this moment in Israel and Gaza, West Bank, that makes you think that this is a particularly bad moment?
Well, the stalemate on the freeze of the peace process, the fact that there's no continuation in the peace process, that the PA, which is the Palestinian Authority, and the moderates of the Palestinian, didn't get anything, didn't achieve anything by negotiating with Israel. Actually, they were humiliated, they were ignored for years, even though they met all the demands that Israel asked. Security in the West Bank, control of the extremist groups, try to develop institutions, and with all of that, Israel kept on building settlements. Remember, 1993, Israel signed an agreement. 2000, a second intifada happens, but in between, the settlements went from 60 settlements that were in 1993 to 200 settlements with 500,000 Israelis living within the Palestinian territories, and that, Palestinians seeing their territories eaten up and taken away, and they've been living under the same military occupation over and over.
So the counter-argument here, and one of the counter-arguments here, is 2005, is the disengagement from Gaza, in the uprooting of settlements and the unilateral disengagement there. Hear me out here. No, answer the question, okay. But hear me out here. Is that, you have rockets, and what that does is it empowers Hamas, then Hamas has a coup, they take over Gaza, and we get the number of rockets that are hitting.
We stopped at 2000.
Why is that wrong?
2006, Hamas won the election. Disengagement, Ariel Sharon decided, okay, I don't want to be in Gaza anymore, not because I want to give the Palestinians something, but anyway, his motivation is his motivation. But what happened, Israel never disengaged from Gaza. What happened, they left the territories of Gaza surrounding it. So they control the airspace, they control the water, and they control the borders. How can you call this disengagement? It's an open air prison. What you do there, by doing that, they empowered more and more Hamas because they are playing the card of the victim, of the people that are oppressed, the people that need to free the Palestinian people. There's 1.7 million population in Gaza that are under siege the day after the Israeli disengaged. So how can you disengage and still control? No country that has a sovereign state can accept these conditions. But that doesn't justify what Hamas is doing. What Hamas is doing is horrifying. But what we are doing, the Israeli policy is actually empowering them more and more. By ignoring the peace camp, by ignoring the moderates, and by attacking actually civilians, targeting civilians by targeting Hamas, you're empowering them.
How do they, and we were having this discussion before we started filming, how does Israel, if it's going to engage in a military conflict in Gaza, and I obviously know that you think this is wrong from the word go, but if they do, how do they not target? But how do they not target civilians? I mean, look, it's obviously Israelis say that, hey, look, these guys are firing rockets from across from hospitals.
Israel is a democracy. Yeah. You have, as a democracy, you have to have a very high regard of human lives. Whether it's your lives or Palestinian lives, they are human lives.
Do you think the IDF and IAF do not take into consideration civilians and human life?
Look, a missile is not a smart one. When you bombard an area, it's not. They don't think, okay, there's a child there, there's a child here. They've been 170 in 7 days. 1,500 were killed in 2008. Let's remember the numbers. I mean, the numbers are so clear. Whether they are doing it, I think when you target.
And you're talking about Operation Cast Lead.
Exactly. Yeah. Highly dense, populated, dense area, deliberately, you know that there are civilians and there will be civilians that will die. So you're
Yeah.
doing that, knowing exactly the outcome of that. I'm not questioning their moral or their judgment. What I'm questioning is strategically, did that help? Did that work? We saw that in 2006. We saw that in 2008. This policy will not work. The solution for this conflict is not a military one. The solution for this conflict is a political one. And until we understand that, we'll see a lot of people that will be killed on both sides, but more the Palestinian side.
How do you have a political solution? There's a couple questions here, actually. How do you have a political solution with, Mahmoud Abbas and Fatah? You seem like you're going to have, the PLO was a very, very different entity than Hamas was. How do you have a negotiated solution with a organization that has in their very charter the destruction of Israel as one of its basic tenets? Is there? This is an Israeli argument.
Nelson Mandela was considered a terrorist.
Yeah. You're not comparing Nelson Mandela and Hamas.
I'm not comparing at all. He was considered a terrorist by South African government. Arafat himself was considered a terrorist. Let's remember that. Begin was considered a terrorist. Many people, but people change. What I'm saying, I'm not saying to include Hamas in immediate negotiation, but I think in the end, you have to consider that there are a movement within the Palestinian society, and they have to have their own say. We negotiated as American with the Taliban. Are you saying that Taliban are worse than Hamas or less worse than Hamas? We have to find smart solutions, and finding smart solutions include we have to have everybody in the table and negotiate with all of them. We negotiate even with Muqtada Sarr, who carried attacks over and over in American soldiers in Iraq, in Najaf, and everywhere. And we managed actually to bring everybody in the table and let them share power in Iraq. We need to do the same thing with the Palestinians. Let's not use rhetoric and be ideological about it. We need to find immediately smart solution. If Israel wants stability and security for not the next election, and I know Bibi Netanyahu is thinking about that, but the next generation, they have to make a peace deal immediately with the Palestinians, withdraw from the West Bank, and take the settlement in. But when you have a Minister of Interior saying, bombard Gaza till the Middle Ages, I mean, this is a mindset that have to change, because with that language, with those actions, you have no results.
Yeah.
You will have them building their capability and coming back after you in maybe 2 years.
Well, Rula Jibril, I thank you for coming in and really, really depressing me and I assume our viewers at this sort of unfortunately endless conflict.
You know what? I'm actually optimistic, and I'm optimistic for various reasons. One, we had a statement in Israel called Yitzhak Rabin, who said, I negotiate while I'm fighting terrorism, and I fight terrorism while I'm negotiating. And with this double strategy, he led his people to the Oslo Agreement. That agreement was signed. If it happens once, it can happen again.
Well, let us hope. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us. And we will be back after Thanksgiving. And I believe, but I cannot promise you this, so don't go mad about this, John Avalon might be here. So we'll see you soon.